Caesar's Palace, Las Vegas, Nevada, site of Wrestlemania 9. Here is your host, Gorilla Monsoon.
Welcome, Realm family, to another episode of Wrestling with the Realm podcast. I'm Bryus Maximus. I am one half of the power and glory of Wrestling podcast, and on the other side, he is the Hercules to my Paul Roma. It's my guy Will. Will, what are we talking about?
We are talking some WrestleMania 9. We know that this year's WrestleMania is taking place in Bryan City,
That's right.
Las Vegas. So we went all the way back to the last time WrestleMania appeared in Las Vegas, and we are tackling WrestleMania 9 today, Brian. Brian,
Awesome.
you ready for this? I know this is your city, this is your time. What are your first notes on WrestleMania 9?
So the first thing when I think of WrestleMania 9, it's a really interesting pay-per-view. Um, we did a retro rewatch for 6. You really enjoyed it, and it was a fun way to turn off your brain and go back and see what the business used to be like in that year. This one is no different. It's WrestleMania 9, April 4th, 1993, Las Vegas, Nevada, or as Vince would say, Las Vegas, Nevada. It's at Caesar's Palace. It is the first destination WrestleMania. It's the first outdoor WrestleMania. They had an attendance of 16,891. So, it was a modest audience, but for the time for the business in 1993, this is a little snapshot of if anybody wanted to know exactly what the business was like in 1993, watch WrestleMania 9. Your post steroid trial, you're trying to get into the new generation, you're trying some new things to try to get some attention. You're trying to move on from Hulk Hogan, but you can't really cut that cord yet. We'll get into it. So it's a really weird time in the business. It's a really weird time for the WWE, but this pay-per-view in particular, it is not a great card. The matches aren't that great, but there's just something about it that just I feel like you can sit down and watch it and you'll be entertained for the length of this WrestleMania. You might not think it's good, but I feel like as far as WrestleMania goes for some of these older retro ones, WrestleMania 9 is something you could definitely watch and be entertained by. I mean, those are kind of the first thoughts. Whenever I think about 9, that's what I always think of. That and Bob Backlund.
Yeah. You want to know what it is for me that I was like, your eyes are kind of glued to the screen while watching this? The stage, the setup, Caesar's Palace, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
It really is. Um, and for me, like the whole presentation was done so well, and that kind of gets us started on the pay-per-view. The entrances for Randy Savage
Yeah.
and Bobby the Brain were money. They were just, I mean, perfect. They really played up the Caesar's Palace theme, and I really enjoyed that. My first note actually on the pay-per-view is Jim Ross is kind of breaking down the whole Caesar's Palace theme, and he shows everyone his gold shoes.
Yes.
I don't know what it is about.
I know.
He's got these like tiny gold sandals that really don't fit him on, and, and that kind of had me laughing right away.
Jim
Finkus,
Ross's first pay-per-view, by the way,
yeah, no,
everybody. So people who know him from the Attitude Era, this is literally the first time JR pops up on a pay-per-view, and he was kind of thrown right into the fire with this one. Sweet gold shoes, though.
yeah, sweet gold shoes, and it's so funny you mentioned that. He starts the pay-per-view. It's like, you know, Bobby, I'm just excited because Bobby's like he's pissed because he had to ride in on what was it? Did he
It
ride
was
in
a
on?
camel. Bobby the
You put
Brain
it
Heenan
on
comes
camera.
out on a camel riding it backwards. Bobby's idea, by the way. That's why he's
Yes.
the GOAT. Amazing.
Yeah. And he's pissed. And Jim Ross is like, man, I'm just happy to work with you, Bobby. And he's like, yeah, shut up, Jim. You're
Yeah,
talking
it's
about
so,
like how he's from
yes.
Oklahoma or something.
I got a couple of them written down for
Oh
Bobby
my gosh.
because
Yeah,
he's
his
so
Bobby's
good on
fire.
commentary. I got a couple that he writes down. He is so low key, just like throws so many strays. It's unbelievable. It's pretty awesome. Bobby the Brain Heenan is so good.
Yeah, he is. And I mean, although Macho was brutally off of his game for WrestleMania 9, Bobby was not.
Right.
He was just
Yep.
any chance he had to throw a stray at JR from being from Oklahoma. Like I don't know how many times he said that. It must have been like four or five.
Yeah, it was a couple.
Man, he was on fire all night. Finkus Maximus. That
Yeah,
I don't know whose idea that was. That was money.
it was. It was
They,
so good leaning into it.
yeah, and that's why I think WrestleMania 9 was so good for me because I mean, any card that you have Giant Gonzalez on, it's gonna be a rough
Yeah.
walk. Um, and I mean, I think they did a good job with the presentation aspect of it. Making like it's just an eye-popping venue and them leaning into it so well. That's why I feel like you have that feeling of, you know, it might not be the best card, it might not be the best wrestling, but you're entertained by it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's probably my biggest takeaway from WrestleMania 9, but also the opening match between Tatanka and Shawn Michaels is a good match.
Yes.
Um, classic Shawn Michaels match. He is just the best, and I am not a huge Tatanka guy. I don't know if there is many Tatanka guys out there. Brian, are you a Tatanka guy?
Like Tatanka is I described him, I think I described him to Joe this way. I was like, because he was talking about Tatanka when he was doing his watch along, so then he can listen to us. And um, he was talking about Tatanka, and I was like, yes, Tatanka is literally the definition of a successful mid-carder. Like that's what he is. Like his place is in the mid-card. He was really good at it, and that's like exactly where he should slot in. It's like sometimes we were just had a hockey game last night, and sometimes when you're going to a minor league hockey game, there was somebody on the Henderson Silver Knights, and I'm like, boy, he is the definition of a career minor league hockey player, where you just a big guy, not the greatest skater. You could tell he's a little bit older, never sniffs the NHL, but you go, that dude just makes his career being a minor league hockey player, and he's perfectly happy with it, and he makes a life of it. That's Tatanka. He is a mid-carder who that is his thing and really good at it. Can put together a good match, has a cool gimmick. Um, wasn't supposed to be in that match with Shawn Michaels. That is not who was supposed to be there. So that was one of the issues that this WrestleMania had going into it. Um, you had guys who were going to be on this card, but then because of being post steroid trial, you have some guys who are out of the company at this point by the time you get to Mania because of performance enhancers that they get popped with. Uh, Marty Jannetty was originally supposed to be the opponent for Shawn Michaels to open this WrestleMania. They had had their falling out. They had uh, worked a little bit of the program at the Royal Rumble before this, and the idea behind it is everybody who knows, I'm sure everybody knows by now when the Rockers broke up. If you don't know, go in and just put the Rockers breakup. It's awesome. It's one of the greatest moments in wrestling history, maybe the greatest breakup of a tag team ever. Shawn Michaels super kicks Marty Jannetty through the glass at the barbershop with Brutus the Barber Beefcake's talk show. Um, Eventually, Marty Jannetty comes back, and there's a great shot in the ring. They show this at Royal Rumble. where Shawn Michaels is in the ring and Sensational Sherry is his valet manager at this time, and she has a mirror in the ring with Shawn, and he's doing his "I'm a sexy boy" hair thing in there, and Marty Jannetty gets into the ring, and the cameraman had to be so excited because he got the perfect shot. He got a shot from behind Shawn into the mirror. So you see Shawn in the mirror, and then you see Marty Jannetty walk up behind him, and he notices. And it's a great shot. And they have a little bit of a altercation, and it ends up that Shawn tries to break the mirror over Marty Jannetty's head, but he inadvertently hits Sherry instead. And in that Royal Rumble, Gorilla Monsoon does a lot on commentary to let you know that, Shawn Michaels never even wrote her a letter while she was recovering. So they're building up this breakup of Sensational Sherry with Shawn also. So the plan going into this WrestleMania was going to be a blow-off match for the IC Championship with Marty Jannetty and Shawn Michaels, and Sherry would be in Marty's corner because there was a whole lot of talk of whose corner is she going to be in. So she would have been in Marty Jannetty's corner, and then we put Luna Vachon with HBK trying to do like a Beauty and the Beast thing is what they were going for. And because Marty is Marty Jannetty and has a hard time getting out of his own way, he's fired from the company before this, so they have to put Tatanka in there. So it was really thrown together. I don't want to say at the last minute, but plans changed. And this is what they came up with Shawn Michaels and Tatanka. So it's nice that you said it was a good match and you enjoyed it because there was a lot that went into it that it wasn't supposed to be that.
Yeah, no, that gives me a whole new perspective on
Hmm.
it. You want to know what, Brian? It's funny that you walked me kind of through this match. Um, why I enjoyed WrestleMania 6 so much is they had those like those little promos before the match
Yeah.
that walked me through what was happening, and that was not happening on this
Mm-mm.
WrestleMania. I kind of miss that. I
Yeah.
don't need it. I don't need it for every match, but something for the IC title. Um, I kind of want it. I really do. When it gets down to like Crush versus Doink, I don't need a
No.
warm up for that. But this I do, and that kind of puts good perspective on this match. That being considered, this was a really good match. Shawn Michaels' presentation is always so well, and him with that version of the IC title is amazing.
Yeah, it
That's
is.
the best version of the IC title. I don't know why we just don't have that like white belt in today's wrestling. I feel like it would do Braun Breaker such justice, him having that belt instead of. I mean, the IC title's not bad now, but that is like the perfect version of it.
Yeah.
Um, Sean makes Tatanka not look like a mid Carter. I know you say he is a
Hmm.
perfect mid Carter, but Sean, the way he sells is,
Yes.
I mean, he's one of the great. He probably is the best seller of all time, in my opinion.
I'd agree
And
with that.
he makes Tatanka look like $1 million. Um, I it makes me wonder with you saying Marty Jannetty getting kicked out of the company. Do you think he would have went over in this match? Because Tatanka does go over via count out, and it keeps his undefeated because he was undefeated at the time.
Yeah. Yeah. And they had to be real careful with that because they were trying to protect, excuse me, they were trying to protect that undefeated streak that he had. But you're also trying to protect Sean a little bit because you really didn't have any story for this. Like they didn't have a video package to show us of the build up for this match because all the video package had Marty Jannetty in it. But to answer your question, I think Marty probably would have won over, would be my guess. Um, I don't think that would have been the end of their feud. I think it would have carried on, but I think Marty probably would have went over and it wouldn't have been a schmaz finish like the one that we got.
So interesting you say that. You wonder, everything does happen for a reason. You wonder how that would affect the career of Shawn Michaels if he would have lost the belt here to a Marty Jannetty. Did they see more of Shawn Michaels and Marty Jannetty than we would have thought? Would he have gotten a much bigger push? Who knows? Who really
Yeah.
knows?
I
Um,
mean, Marty Jannetty always wonders that too. And kind of, I mean, it's not his fault though, if you ask him. Nothing is ever Marty's fault.
no,
But to me, when Marty Jannetty talks about those things, my first thought always is Shawn was going to be fine. There was no way Shawn
yeah,
Michaels was never going to become what he did. Having Marty go over in this match and winning the IC championship, I don't think it would have mattered because Shawn just shined that bright. If anything, he would have got hotter faster than what he did because him and Marty could have made a lot of money and booked a lot of shows with those two working together. Um, that's one of the reasons why we say last year at WrestleMania with Jay and Jimmy, it was so anticlimactic because you were looking for such a great match with them. And that's the kind of thing that Shawn and Marty were so good at that,
yeah,
it didn't translate with the Usos yet for now. Maybe one day we'll get back to that and get a proper one. But I think Shawn would have been fine. And I think it would have elevated both of them even more had he been in the company still.
yeah. I mean, I don't disagree with you. Talent always tends to pull through.
Yep. The cream rises to the top. Uh-huh. Dig it.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right, Macho Man. I mean, and Shawn is the definition of talent. So,
Yep.
I mean, I know what you're saying. Marty Jannetty does think he was supposed to be Shawn Michaels.
Yeah.
That's not true. Um, that there is a count out. I thought it was hilarious that there was because in our last retro rewatch, there was so many count outs.
Yes.
And then I turn on WrestleMania 9 and there's another count out. I have in my notes another count out with a laughing emoji. I thought that this was hilarious. Yeah, I think it was important, like you said, for Shawn to keep the belt, but also to protect Tatanka. And for that reason, unlike a ton of matches in WrestleMania 6, this is a justified count out.
Yeah.
You want both looking strong coming out of this match. And then I have in my notes as well that Luna smoked Sherry after the match.
Yes.
Like just gives her the work. And what I
Yes.
find so funny, and I wanted to save this note till later. They keep bringing up on commentary later in the match that Sherry is like in critical condition and she gets beat up again after the match. I find this so funny because they also say that like Lex Luger beat up Bret Hart and that
Hmm.
and Ted DiBiase also says that Hulk Hogan got jumped
Yes.
coming out of like getting a haircut or something. I forgot what it was.
Yes.
What money can do. Why is everyone getting beat up and there's like no footage of it? We're just supposed to believe that everyone's just getting their butt kicked backstage or like off the WrestleMania campus. Like what is happening with this? I don't know,
So,
but
so I can explain the Lex Luger, the narcissist, Lex Luger. I can explain that one with him and Brett, because Bruce Pritchard talked about it on his WrestleMania 9 podcast and said that there was some sort of a luncheon earlier in the morning, like a brunch or something that they had, and it was for um, high rollers and those kinds of things in Vegas. Um, a way to kind of promote the show and get people's eyes on the characters who are there and stuff. Because what happens, this happened in WrestleMania 4 and 5 also that were at Trump Plaza in New Jersey, that when you're a casino like that, a lot of those tickets down by the front of the ring, a lot of those were bought by casinos. So they buy all those good tickets and then they give them away to their high rollers, to their whales who come in, and they do that in Vegas with a lot of things. It'll be show tickets. You want to go see Blue Man Group, they'll have tickets that casinos buy that they can give to people, to get them to gamble at their casinos. So the casinos in Vegas bought a lot of those really good tickets. So what happens is you're giving those tickets to people who might not necessarily be a wrestling fan and understand what's going on, what they're watching. So they're very casual and sometimes they're sitting on their hands. They're not cheering and engaging the way you want. And in this particular WrestleMania, a lot of people with those tickets didn't show, so they started moving people from the cheaper seats down to the good seats to fill them. So you get a nice good shot of having a full, ringside arena there with some more enthusiastic fans. Um, but I guess what happened was there was a brunch earlier in the day, and they had Lex Luger used his, forearm that has the metal plate in it to knock out Brett. And they don't know where that was going. Bruce really didn't have a great explanation for it, why they never went back to that. But it was something that they did earlier in the day, and they just never followed through on anything with that. Because later we also have Shawn Michaels is in the back and gets jumped after, is that perfect in Lex when that
Yeah,
happened?
no. Yeah, he jumps Mr. Perfect after the match. I
Yeah,
also put that down. I'm like, why is everyone getting beat up
right,
after matches?
exactly. Yeah, it does happen a lot.
Yeah, a whole lot of roid rage going on in the
Yeah.
back.
You know when you when you said we're not supposed to have any of that because this is post steroid trial. So everybody here should have been clean. I say should have been.
Yeah, well, I don't know about you, but Lex Luger did not look a whole lot of clean.
When you were talking about Luna beating up Sherry in the back, they
Mhm.
say one, they say that Luna has jumped Sherry at the first aid station
Yeah.
at Caesar's Palace, which is amazing because that is where you want to get beat up if you're going to get beat up. Yeah, they say Luna Vachon has beaten up Sherry at the first aid station, and Bobby goes, Super! He literally
He's
just
not.
said super, like very enthusiastically. It was crazy, but it was so funny. Bobby Heenan, man, you're the GOAT, buddy.
Yeah, that whole like opening that must have been with the match and the entrances, that 40 minutes. Because the entrances took like 20 minutes.
Yep,
And that match might have been like the highlight of WrestleMania 9 for me.
it was
But
good.
I would also have to include this tag team match
Mm-hmm.
because the Steiners versus the Head Shrinkers is a but it's my match of the night. It is
Okay.
match of the night. First of all, I was crying before the match even started. The reason the Steiners were so motivated going into the match, they're cutting their promo. And if you know something about Steiner promos, they're gonna be good.
Yep.
He said that they're gonna make Julius Caesar proud. Like that makes no sense. But I love it. I love it because it's the Steiners. Um, you know, the this match is easily my match of the night. It is fast paced. It has great action. Scotty Steiner goes flying over the top ropes. That was crazy. Was he supposed to do the spot where you pick him up over the shoulder and you throw him into the top rope and he bounces off? Or was he actually supposed to whip him full speed
So
over the top rope?
so I watched that a couple of times because my initial thought when I watched it, I thought that it was a bit of a botch, and I
Yeah, me
wasn't
too.
sure who botched it. But then, as the match goes on a little bit, because I'm paying attention to the commentary guys, because I always like to, if you guys have been listening to us, you know I love the commentary guys. I love listening and see how they call a show and if they're doing a good job or not. And they talk about the spot where Scott goes over the rope, and one, again, Bobby, uh, Scott Steiner goes over the rope, and Bobby goes back, 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 gone when he gets thrown over, and then goes, baseball season is starting tomorrow. And they're talking about that spot a little bit later, and they say that I can't remember if it was Samu or Fatu pulls the top rope down so he goes out of the ring. So it was a design spot to have that happen because one of the head shrinkers pulls the top rope down as the move is going. So he goes over, and they talk about it on commentary. And I think I think it's Bobby who points out that they pulled the rope down. What great teamwork or something. And then Macho Man was saying it, and JR says he didn't notice it. And Bobby says, "Yeah, but you're from Oklahoma. You don't know anything." So that's one of the times. And he says it's so sly too. But it was with that move that I did think it was a botch, but then going back and watching it again, no, it was a planned spot. It just looked really good, because it looked terrible when you watch it that somebody messed up, but it looks like it was a planned spot.
And yes, it kind of did. That's kind of what I settled on as well. Um, and off of that, they were able to kind of just neutralize Rick Steiner in the corner. And there was a spot where one of the head shrinkers throws him into the corner and
Hmm.
gives him a headbutt and tags the other one in. And before he takes the other one in, he headbutts his own teammate.
Yep.
I thought that was amazing. I am not familiar with the head shrinkers. I'm sure they do
Oh,
that all the time. Um,
It was a different time of cultural sensitivity in the wrestling business.
oh
And
yeah,
back when you had
obviously.
when you had the wild Samoans and the head shrinkers and all of these Samoan groups and wrestlers, the gimmick always was is that they can give headbutts because they have such strong heads.
That's
Like
so
that's what they would do. So they would do that spot in the matches where they would take a headbutt or they would give a headbutt, and you would go, "Oh, that's a bad idea because these guys are just going to crush you with that. You're not going to be able to affect them, and they're going to be able to give it back to you twice as hard." So that is something that they would do, but it's super entertaining. Like they're such a fun tag team, and the one
yeah.
thing that we haven't called out right away in this match, the legacy of this match in
Oh my
this
God, yeah.
match, so we have the Steiner brothers and we have the head shrinkers. Steiner brothers, Rick and Scott. Fast forward to today, you have Rick's son, Scott's nephew, Braun Breaker, is going to be in his first WrestleMania. Then you go over on the other side with the head shrinkers, and you have Samu and Fatu. Fatu is Rikishi. He's Solo Sikoa and Jay and Jimmy Uso's dad, who are all going to be at Mania this year. So it's kind of crazy when you look in this one match that you said might be your match of the night. Um, Look at the legacy that's left with these guys that are in that ring is super impressive. Um, that was something that stood out right away as I was watching, and I'm going, "Oh yeah, that's Rikishi." And then I start thinking about it. I go, "Wait, this is the Steiner brothers' first WrestleMania." So there's another connection. This is the Steiners' first WrestleMania, is WrestleMania 9 in Las Vegas, and this is Braun Breaker's first WrestleMania, WrestleMania 41 in Las Vegas. You know,
Yeah.
sometimes it's like bookends, or as George Lucas would say, it's just like jazz, man. So sometimes things just work and they rhyme. And this is one of those times with WrestleMania 9 and WrestleMania 41, especially when you look at this match.
Well, it's so funny you say that because I wrote down that Jay Uso is a liar. Is a liar. You want to know why? He was cutting a promo on Braun Breaker within this calendar year when they were feuding for the IC title, and he said, "My family has been whooping up on your family for a long time." Yeet. And guess what? His family lost this
They
match.
lost the
He's a
match.
liar.
Yeah.
He is an
Yep.
absolute liar. Um, Scotty came off the top rope, hit a Frankensteiner for the win. Another part of this match I liked is Rick Steiner had a amazing reversal.
Oh, it was awesome.
Um,
Thank you for
yeah,
talking about it.
where he was up on one of the head shrinker's shoulders, went for a crossbody, and he flips it.
Yes.
You're
Into
talking
a
about
power slam. Yeah.
you're talking about four guys that
Yep.
are way ahead of their time.
Yep.
Like you could put them out there at WrestleMania 41 for
Yep.
a title, like for a tag titles, and it would have been an amazing match. Like this match, you could put in any generation of wrestling, and it would have been fire.
Yep.
So yes, this is my match of the night easily.
It's not a bad choice.
But let's move on. Doink versus Crush. I don't have much to say about this. You can kind of fill me in on Crush. I thought he was okay. He's pretty strong. He's a strong dude.
Yep.
Uh, he's
Kona
a
Crush Brada. That's
he's
that version. It's the Hawaiian version of Crush.
he's a little slow in the ring though. I thought he's not very fast. He's a big dude. He goes in that skyscraper category we talk about here on Wrestling with the Realm. Um, it was a fine match. I don't even have any highlights in this match, like in ring wise. But the double doink was pretty cool.
Yes.
That was pretty cool, and how they get in the ring and they're kind of playing the mime trick where
Yep.
they're hearing each other with the hands.
Yep.
And
Yep.
I thought that was a neat touch, and it was okay.
You know, first of all, in this match, there is a spot with Todd Pettengill, who's out in the crowd, who gives a shout out to our guy Bob Uecker, who's near and dear to all of our hearts. R.I.P. Bob Uecker. We miss you, Uke, especially with baseball season starting. That he says he's up in the Uecker seats. Uh, it's always nice. It's kind of cool. Um, Having a connection with Bob Uecker and WWE and Wrestlemania, it always feels like it's a little bit closer for home for us with that stuff. So it was kind of cool to see Euchre get a little bit of shout out, even though he wasn't there. Um, I love Doink. Doink,
Dude,
Doink could have been so awesome. That character was a great gimmick. He's an evil clown. And like he was such a good evil clown too. Like dude would show up on like the Saturday morning shows with like a couple of buckets and he'd be walking around and he would act like he's gonna throw water on you and confetti would come out. And then a little bit later he'd come out with a bucket and act like he's gonna do that. Only water would really be in it. And he's soaking people in the crowd. He's like popping kids' balloons. Like he was just an evil clown. Doink's theme song is
oh yeah,
fire. Da, 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 do, 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 boom, boom. And then everything gets serious and dark and morose. It's a great theme. Uh, the match was, nothing. It was nothing to write home about. Doink could work. That's the other thing is that he could actually work in the ring and put on a good match.
Mhm.
Crush Crush came in with Demolition. He lets it's Big Brian Adams. He was around for a very long time. Uh, and I always hated this iteration of Crush or a character that he was playing. He
Yeah.
felt so mid 90s. The bright colors, the Kona Crush, the whole thing was, um, I didn't dig it, but I'm sure there was a lot of kids who did. But I love Doink. I thought Doink was such a great gimmick. I love the two Doinks. That was a great spot that you have the second Doink comes out from under the ring, uses a fake arm and takes out Crush, goes back under the ring because we have a lot of refs getting knocked out in this one, by the way. So a lot of referees taking bumps in this WrestleMania. Um, but Doink was just awesome. I like this match a lot because I really dig Doink. But yeah, I thought this match was actually a pretty good match. It was fun. It was entertaining. I do have one note that in this match, I want to call out the guy. There is a guy in the crowd, like at the end of the match when they're trying to figure out what happened and the referee, there is a guy in the crowd who is very adamant. He's standing up and he's like pointing, he's putting up two fingers. He was very adamant that there was two doinks and he was beside himself angry at the outcome of this match. And I couldn't take my eyes off of that guy. I was like, okay, he's a real fan. They moved him down from the cheap seats to get down here
Yeah.
because like, okay, this guy's got it. We have to put him in view of camera. It was kind of funny.
No, he was probably acting like me after John Cena turned to heel. He was
Yes.
probably he was probably like so
Yes.
this was his canon event in his life that he
Yes.
that he had to be so upset about it
Yeah.
and must have been a ginormous Crush fan.
Like the dude like he loved Crush. He drank Crush soda and his like lifestyle and the fact that Doink beat him by cheating. Dude was beside himself. He
Dude, he
he had
was.
nothing but pure fury for Doink in that moment.
Yeah, man. Oh my gosh. That was I'm gonna have to rewind it because I
You
need to
got to
catch
do
up.
it. Yeah,
Oh
it's
yeah, I have
funny.
to catch that guy. All right. Well, that moves us on to our next match, and we got the to me the definition of aura. When we talk about the it factor, Brian, Razor Ramon is the it factor.
I thought you were going to say Bob Backlund.
No, not Bob. I wish I never saw this match because of Bob Backlund. That's
Oh
hard.
man.
That's harsh. I need to stop throwing strays. But you want to know what? Razor Ramon's entrance and the way he kind of just walks around, he's got the toothpick, he throws it at Bob
Yes.
Backlund.
Yep.
Everything about Razor Ramon, his nickname was the bad guy. He is the bad guy.
Yep.
He is the ultimate heel. Um, Razor Ramon would be a legend in any you drop him in any timeline in wrestling, he would be the man.
Yeah.
Um, Sometimes I think about like overrated, underrated. Like I think Razor Ramon is underrated, not because people don't think he is amazing, but the fact that WWE did not put multiple world champions on this guy, and even when he was in WCW, he was kind of like he was a huge part of the NWO, but he was world champion a handful of times, but kind of towards the end of WCW.
Yeah.
And I felt like, man, he deserved his own title run, like in WWE or
Mhm.
WCW. Razor Ramon is the man. This match does not serve him any justice. It really does not. The
Ugh.
fact that he beats Bob Backlund, who was making a comeback, by a small package, come on. This should have been a squash match. Like, he should
Man,
have packed up Bob Backlund in like 5 seconds.
I know. It really should have been. You're not wrong. My first note that I have for this match, can't wait to hear what Will has on this one because I knew you were just going to be like, what are we doing? And
Come on. Come
we're
on.
getting guys on the card. Bob Backlund is 44 right here.
Oh
This
man.
man is the same age as me in this WrestleMania, and I will explain it to you. So my wife walks out while I'm watching, and she's looking at this match, and she's like, "Oh man, Scott Hall is so cool because he really is. Like he just exudes that." It was kind of a funny note when he throws his toothpick because he like throws it into the crowd, and she goes, "Did he just throw his toothpick into the crowd?" I go, "Yeah, he's the bad guy." And she's like, "He can hit somebody with that. He can hit somebody in the eye." I'm like, "Yeah, he's the bad guy. This is what he does." So we're watching this match, and my and my wife is like, "Who's the other guy? Who's the baby Huey guy?" I'm like, "It's Bob Backlund." I was like, "It's a whole thing." He was big in the WWF back when Vince Sr. was running it and when Bruno and all those guys were there. And they brought him back to see if they could get something out of him. He goes on to be WWE champion and plays a heel and is like a psychopath. He's crazy. Um, and he works with Brett a lot on that. And again, I'll give kudos to Brett. Um, Brett
Wow.
Brett makes that stuff work. But in this particular match, I was like, okay, you want to know what this is? I said, remember when we're watching can't remember, I think it was Royal Rumble we were watching, and it's the women's Royal Rumble, and then you get was I think it might have been when Natalia came down to the
Oh,
ring.
the mo.
And yeah, and my wife is asking questions about, well, when was she working before, like Trish Stratus and all that kind of stuff, or people from that era with the divas, because she's very interested in, you go from the Attitude Era into the Divas, and then you start working your way towards what we have today with the women's division, and it's so different. It's such an interesting timeline. So when you look at the women's division circa the Divas, when it was the Divas, then you look at what we have today with Tiffany Stratton and Rhea Ripley and Liv Morgan. and all the work that's going on in the women's division, it's two totally different styles, and it's different, and you notice it. Bob Backlund is the Divas era of male wrestling, and Razor Ramon is today's. Like, there's that much of a jump from when Bob Backlund was relevant
You're
earlier in
not
his
wrong.
career to 1993. It is that same jump that we had from the Divas to today's women's division, if that makes sense. And you can see it. It's a different thing. He's waddling around and he's all excited and he's doing a hip toss and a big
Yeah,
atomic
dude.
drop
It
and he's
was so
excited about
stupid.
it. And poor Razor, who supposedly was hurt, so that's why this match was the way it was. But if that's the case, they should have booked it the way you said and just have it be a squash match. Just go in there, let Razor, get a few moves in, put him in the Razor's edge, and just be done with it. That probably would have been a better way to go.
Yeah, it would have been. But man, you're so right when you say that about he is the Divas
Yeah.
era of men's wrestling, but it is hilarious the way you put that. He
Yeah.
really is. You're not wrong. Um,
I don't mean any disrespect by it at all to the Divas
no,
division or to Bob Backlund. I'm just
no,
saying
no,
that when the product is constantly evolving and when you put superstars from two different eras into a ring, sometimes you can see that contrast. And this was one of those times where it just stood out like a sore thumb, and you go, wow, we've come a long way since the last time you saw Bob Backlund in
yeah,
a wrestling ring.
just in the character development
Hmm.
alone.
Yep.
Um, well, enough with that kind of bathroom break of a match. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Yep.
Um, we go backstage and we get um Ted DiBiase
Great.
in the back with a microphone. It's must see television.
Yep.
It really is. I have a quote. He says, Hulk Hogan says he's gonna bankrupt us. How do you bankrupt the company with a unlimited credit line? Dude, unbelievable.
Good.
He's always on fire.
Always.
I know we used him in one of our overrated and underrated episodes, dude, and we said underrated. It just every time we do one of these retro rewatches, it just reminds me of that he is underrated and he's one of those guys that never really got a fair shot with the belt or really any belt. He had the $1 million belt.
Yeah.
Um, but man, this was just a classic from him backstage. Money Incorporated.
Awesome.
Uh, yeah, good group. I'm happy they didn't drop the titles in this match. You probably have. This feels very pieced together for me. They titled it as a double main event because the fact that Hulkster wasn't closing the show, that just isn't going to work for me, brother.
Doesn't work for
Um,
me, brother.
it's not going to work for him, and he needs to be a part of a main event. That's what it feels like. I get progressively more pissed with Hulk Hogan as this show goes on.
Yep.
Um, and it doesn't help with this match in general. It was kind of just a match. Um, I don't have a lot of notes on the actual wrestling of the match outside of the ref bump that happens
God.
at the end of the
Yeah.
match because there's always going to be a ref bump, multiple of them. And I don't even attest this to your era of wrestling. This is just a Vince McMahon special.
Yes.
Think about Roman Reigns' title reign. A million ref bumps, and then there's bloodline interference.
Hmm.
Vince loves a ref bump. And then the mouth of the South goes in there and he counts the 3 count for him. What are we like? Why? Maybe you have a better explanation of why that happened. Um, but the booking of this match just seems weird, and I feel like it's a crime that $1 million Money Incorporated didn't go over here.
Yeah.
It, like clean. They should have
Yep.
just went over clean. And it just this whole pay-per-view, top like from when Hulk starts to where it ends, is just him saying, "Well, it's not gonna work for me,
Yep.
brother. If I'm gonna lose, I'm not me or Brutus. We're not gonna get pinned. We're not gonna get pinned, brother. That's not happening."
Yep.
Dude, put the other team over, make them look strong. Not, oh my gosh, Brian. He's so frustrating, especially in this pay-per-view. It's unbelievable that, and this is why Million Dollar Man is underrated because he doesn't have many big moments.
Hmm.
He really doesn't. And that's why wrestling has evolved so much. You see so many top guys like John Cena, who put over Solo Sikoa in his last one-on-one singles match. That was the top guy in the company forever.
Yep.
He
Didn't he
put over
go
a
for
guy like
Austin Theory?
he did. He actually did put
Yeah.
over Austin Theory.
Yeah.
He put over so many people, right? And
Yeah.
that was always the criticism from for Hogan. And he just doesn't. He doesn't put over anyone. And it's so outrageous because it makes this match look foolish. It makes it look like, it's like a ha ha funny moment.
Yeah. It's a
At the end
clown
of this
show.
match. It really is. Like they should have just had Doink go out there and count the three. Like,
There you go.
why is the manager getting in there and counting the three count? Because he has stripes on the
Oh,
other side of his suit.
it's so
It,
stupid.
it is, and like I am genuinely upset by it because it just shows you the type of worker Hulk Hogan is. And then he'll get on a podcast and he'll tell you that he's not that type of guy, brother. He
Uh-huh.
really isn't. He always had everyone's best interest. No, you didn't. And it doesn't stop right here. But man, I'll let you take over because it's hard for me to gather thoughts on it because it's very frustrating.
It's frustrating. Like even as a kid, I remember watching this and kind of being irritated by the ending because even as a kid, I knew how stupid it was. You just don't get to be Jimmy Hart and turn your jacket inside out, and because you have stripes on it, you get to count 1, 2, 3. That's the stupidest thing. Even I knew that. I mean, right away in this match, this is Hogan's return to the WWE after the steroid trial, and he's gone off and made Mr. Nanny or whatever movies it was. The first thing you notice, dude looks lean. He is much smaller than he was in WrestleMania 6, even WrestleMania 7. He's much smaller than he was then. You also might notice the messed up eye that he has with a big black eye. It's all bloodshot. He has a bandage over the front, over the top of it. Um, he was in a jet ski accident. He fell off of a jet ski or something, and it swung around and hit him in the face and busted up his eye. I know there's been lots of rumor and innuendo about, Macho Man beat him up or something like that, but the stories that have been told is that he wasn't even in Vegas the day before this. They got a phone call days before that this had happened. That's why he has the black eye. Um, Beefer has the mask on because he had a parasailing accident, which was even worse. That somebody was parasailing and kneed him in the face. They were on the water skimming across, and he was in there, and their knees just hit him right in the face and like collapsed his whole face. And it had to be rebuilt with all kinds of plates and screws. So that's horrific. So that's why he has the mask on. Um, but you also notice in this match, the thing that stands out the most to me is that IRS, Erwin R. Shyster gimmick I always loved. It's so good. That's such a great gimmick. Um,
Mhm.
IRS and Ted DiBiase are so far heads and tails above Hogan and Beefcake as far as in-ring work in this match. It's not even close.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you.
IRS and Ted DiBiase carry this match. They make everything look good. For as stupid as this match is, those two guys stand out in a good way. So props to them. Like, good on those guys for being in such a ridiculous booking and having people, if you watch wrestling, be able to watch it and at least say, wow, those guys are working their butts off to try to make this whole match work. Um, it's so dumb too in the match because they have a spot where IRS and Ted DiBiase do the classic heel thing where they're just going to walk away, which is funny because Liv and Raquel did that just a few weeks ago where they had their match and they were like, forget it, we're done. And they're just going to walk back to the back. Um, but IRS and Ted DiBiase do that. I was going to get a Liv Morgan in. Everybody
Yeah,
thought I
you
was
got
going to
it.
be able to get it into WrestleMania 9. Clearly, you haven't been watching the WWR. So those two try heading to the back, and Finkus Maximus gets on the microphone and says that the referee has decided that if Money Inc. doesn't return to the ring, they'll be counted out and they will lose the World Tag Team Championships. Since when can a referee dictate when the championship can change hands and it can't? That was stupid. It was a dumb spot. Then it's even worse at the end with Jimmy Hart turning his stupid jacket inside out and counting one, two, three. But that's not the dumbest thing. The dumbest thing is Hogan and Beefcake walking around going, "We won! We won! Come on, we're the champions." That is the stupidest thing, and it makes Hogan and Beefer look ridiculous. You guys know the rules. You know you're not going to win because of that. And they also work as heels throughout this whole match. Everybody needs to realize with Hogan, go back and watch a lot of this stuff. That dude acts like a heel and does all kinds of heel things, and everybody just lets it go. But this is about the end of it. Like this was around the breaking point where people were finally getting tired of it. If you go back and watch this match with Beefcake and Hogan, and what did they call themselves? They called themselves the Mega Maniacs. Okay, it's not. It doesn't have the same appeal as the Mega Powers when it was him and Randy. Um, but you watch this match, they work as heels. They're doing heel stuff the whole time, arguing with the referee after the fact. Then they steal the property of Ted DiBiase and IRS and steal their briefcase, open it up, and then steal their money and give it away. What the heck,
Yeah,
man?
that's
That's
a
heel
note I have.
101.
That's a note I have.
Yeah.
Um, First of all,
Boo.
I
I
want to
say
talk.
boo.
Yeah, boo Hogan. Um, I have first Bobby the Brain says that Hogan should be fined, and then he says, "Oh, well, never mind. They probably give him $350,000." I thought that was kind
Amazing.
of that was on point.
Amazing.
Um, I loved. I said that they were handing out the money. I said Hogan turns into Mr. Beast after the match. Like, why is he handing out
Perfect.
money? It was like it was so stupid.
It was.
This match kind of just put a sour taste in my mouth. Um, but I'm not gonna lie to you, it doesn't get much better after this because our next match kind of does the same thing.
Yep.
You can explain this to me in a minute, but we have Lex Luger versus Mr. Perfect, but it's not Lex Luger, it's the narcissist.
The narcissist.
Maybe I'm not hip to the game of the narcissist, but why is he not Lex Luger anymore?
Well, he's not Lex Luger anymore because Vince likes to have trademark names that he owns, and he likes everybody has to have a gimmick. Everybody has to have a character that they're playing. Lex Luger isn't marketable, but if he can market a T-shirt that says the narcissist on it and he owns that, he's going to do it. So you have the narcissist. Um, it's a cool gimmick. I don't think it's a bad gimmick by any stretch of the imagination that he's full of himself. He's this perfect bodied, Adonis, this Greek god. That whole thing makes sense for him. And it makes sense for this match because you have Lex Luger, the narcissist, and you have Mr. Perfect. So you have two gimmicks that are similar but not the same, and the booking makes a lot of sense. And this is another story that Bruce Pritchard told about this match, that I guess Lex was always very excited when he found out he was going to work a program with Mr. Perfect, because he knew that those were typically easy nights, because Perfect would call the whole match. You didn't have to worry about doing a whole lot of work in the ring. Just let him lead and do your thing. That supposedly in this match, they got out there, they locked up, and Mr. Perfect was like, I forgot what we're doing, and just totally drew a blank and had one of those weird brain farts. So, right from the beginning, the match got kind of wonky. And I think it goes back to his promo before the match. You recall Mr. Perfect's promo before this match?
I actually don't have any notes on it. That's
So, before the match, when Mr. Perfect is cutting his promo with Mean Gene in the back, he's, doing his Mr. Perfect thing. I'm absolutely perfect. I'm perfect at this and I'm perfect at that. And everything I do is absolutely perfect. Perfect, perfect, perfect. Then he gets to the end and Mean Gene is like, well, what are you going to do? How are you going to handle the narcissist Lex Luger? And Perfect goes, don't worry about that. I'll take care of the Lexicist. The narcissist. I'm just so excited to be here. And it's like, you just bragged about being so perfect, and then you didn't say the right name. So it was kind of embarrassing. Like I was secondhand embarrassed for Perfect, because I'm like, oh man, he normally doesn't make that mistake. So I was like, oh no. I wonder if that's when he got up in his own head. He was like, oh, I screwed up the promo, and then he was just thinking a little bit too much. But all in all, I really didn't think it was that bad. Even after that, I thought that the entrances were great. Lex Luger's entrance was awesome. Those are some people's grandmas that walked him down to the ring. And there was a spot where when all of Luger's ring valets are walking to the back and Perfect is coming
and
out,
they go,
the one she goes to grab him and Perfect like swatted her hand away, like don't touch me. It was really funny. It was a really good entrances. I didn't think that the match was that bad. I mean, honestly,
no,
it's one of the better Lex Luger matches that he has in the WWE. Um, so even on an off night, I think Perfect was able to make him look decent.
yeah, he was. I have that down that this match was it was a good match. Um, Even though Perfect, like you said, was not on his A game, um, Perfect not on his A game is still better than majority of people not on their A game.
Yeah.
So,
I,
um,
I did write down one note for the actual in ring though for Perfect, and I wrote down that Perfect literally did have a perfect sunset flip. It was beautiful. Like
mhm.
it's one of the best sunset flips that I have seen. Um, just the amount of air that he gets when he's jumping over Lex Luger, like he made it look so good. It was great. And that's another thing. I think we talked about it a little bit in our WrestleMania 6 retro rewatch, that it would do some of today's superstars to go back and look at some of these older matches and take some things that we just don't see as much anymore. The pendulum for professional wrestling has swung so far to what Jim Cornette would call, it's a bunch of gymnastics in there, people throwing kicks and jumping around, then wrestling, and he's kind of right. The pendulum has swung so far to high flying, fast paced maneuvers that when I see somebody do a suplex or do an atomic drop or a power slam, I go, oh, okay, good. I kind of like seeing that. So seeing some of this stuff or a drop kick, just a nice drop kick sometimes can do a lot. Sometimes less is more. And I think that some of today's performers could go back, watch, and see some of these things and start incorporating them into their matches today. I think it would be nice to mix it up a little bit.
Yeah. I agree with you. I think if more wrestlers just kind of, it's funny you say that because we talk about Bob Backlund and the game evolves. But sometimes the game does evolve and then we just forget what has happened in the
Hmm.
past. And sometimes it's okay to pull things from the past because there is a lot of good, especially with a guy like Perfect. Um, you know, even sometimes a guy like Lex Luger does things
Yeah.
that he can do things that are really good. Um, and you have to pull from the past a little bit. I think you see certain wrestlers do that, and those are the guys that usually rise to the top.
Yep.
So couldn't agree more with you there. After the match,
Awesome.
yeah, he knocks Perfect out, and then later, Perfect gets jumped by Shawn Michaels. Really rough night for Mr. Perfect.
Yeah.
Last WrestleMania I watched, he lost his undefeated streak.
Hmm.
I might be his like bad luck charm. Anytime I watch this dude, he's out there taking L's. So
Oh, but he's
man,
also out there selling like a madman. Him and
yeah,
Sean trying to pull on a cell show.
yeah, they are both, just absolutely ahead of their
Yeah.
time. What is a Giant Gonzalez? Um, because that is just
A
what
really
is that?
nice guy, apparently.
I'm sure he is. I'm sure he's a great dude.
Yeah.
Um, why is he in a full body suit? Um, Undertaker, Giant Gonzalez, is a unfortunately a match. Um,
Hmm.
it is not good in the ring because Giant Gonzalez cannot wrestle. He should have stuck to being a nice guy. Maybe tried out for like the NBA or something. Wrestling is not his thing. It's
Hmm.
just not. Um, man, I really am just kind of speechless from this match. It's a is it a DQ finish? The bell rings.
Yeah, because he chloroforms Taker. Yeah.
Chloroform taker. Why is Giant Gonzalez a giant? Like, what's he supposed to be? Like Bigfoot because he has that suit on.
I
Why
guess.
why is Bigfoot using chloroform?
Because he couldn't work in the match and they had to come up with an ending to try to get the Undertaker down because he's the dead man and he can't be stopped. And it was so rough. They did Taker so dirty with this booking. And I wrote in my notes that boy does Taker try to get a decent match out of this. Like Taker and Paul Bearer both are doing a lot of heavy lifting to try to get this match over is the best that they can. And the commentary crew too. You know, we have Bobby, JR, and Macho Man on commentary, and they are trying as hard as they can to put over Giant Gonzalez and try to get us to really buy into the fact that this guy is a giant and he's actually formidable. They're really, really trying really hard, and it's not working because the bell rings and we all have eyeballs. The crowd was dead during it, no pun intended, with The Undertaker. Just,
Yeah,
it just, it goes on Taker's record with his streak, but man, oh man, they weren't even thinking about that streak at this point. And it's so crazy to look back at that and go, what if they would have put Giant Gonzalez over in this match? Like, what if somebody would have had that huge mistake and Taker never would have had his streak because of this match? Like, let's all take a moment and be thankful that that didn't happen, um, because that could have killed some of the Undertaker's mystique with that. Luckily, they were smart enough to know we can't do that to him. And poor Giant Gonzalez. I'm sure he's a very nice guy. I hear he's lovely. Um, but just can't really work. Can't really work. I'm not going to, for as much as Will and I like to shoot off strays once in a while, especially on overrated, underrated, not once. We've compared people to Ultimate Warrior. We've done that. We've never compared somebody to Giant Gonzalez. Even we won't go that far.
Man, I thought you were gonna line it up like we weren't gonna throw it straight at Giant Gonzalez, and then he caught one right there.
I call him a very lovely person. But
He
then the
probably
bell rings.
was. Yeah, yeah. Same with
Yeah.
Natalia, you know? It just happens to people.
And Natalia she seems really nice.
Yeah,
I
she really
liked
did.
I liked her and Maxine Dupree the other night on SmackDown.
Well, I know what they were good. They were good.
I liked it. It worked. I saw what they were doing there. That was fun. So, I will always give out compliments when it's warranted. And especially for Natalia, again, I don't mean any disrespect for her. She's just it's a different time compared to where we're going now. So you have to get whatever you can out of that. And her and Maxine Dupree, I think, did that. But that's neither here nor there. That's SmackDown.
Yeah, that's SmackDown. This isn't a SmackDown review. This
No.
is WrestleMania 9 review. And Brian, unless you have any more you want to say about Giant Gonzalez, um,
Nope.
let us move on to the main event of all
Wait, wait,
WrestleMania.
wait. Don't forget the Hogan promo.
Yeah, well, what even was that? Because like, why does Bret Hart care if the Hulkamaniacs are on his side? No one cares. Hulk Hogan. Let them have their match. That's my note on the Hulk Hogan promo is that, you know, no one cares that the Hulkamaniacs are on Bret's side. He
Because
doesn't need to be a part of this.
I forgot about this promo and I'm watching it and Hogan pops up before the main event. See, now, okay, here's the other thing, folks. This is the first WrestleMania that Hulk Hogan was not closing the show. So I'm sure there had to be a lot of separation anxiety for Vince trying to put this show together without having Hogan at the end because it's the first time in the history of WrestleMania that they'd be doing that. So I'm sure it was strange. I can understand that to a certain extent that they were trying to go in a different direction and I'm sure that was difficult to do. But why are we having him cut a promo before the main event talking about, like you said, that Hulkamania is behind Brett? It was so shoehorned and forced in there. So when he comes down to the ring at the end, we all remember, oh, what a great guy he is. He cares so much with making sure that Brett wins this match and beats Yokozuna. I thought it was terrible having him do that promo. If you're gonna do this thumbs down finish to this show, just cut your losses and don't make it worse by doing something like that. Like it just going back and seeing it now, forgetting about the promo that he shot, that's just terrible that they have to shoehorn that in. I thought it was horrible.
Yeah, it was a brick. It
Yeah.
was an absolute brick of a promo. Um, I thought it was pointless not to have Fuji out there cutting a promo or Brett cutting a promo
Yep.
before them.
You're
That
100% right.
that would have been much more well
Yep.
served. Um, this match between Brett and Yoko, it was on the tail end of Yoko's um kind of run in the WWE. You know, he was kind of, but like I didn't think he was bad. I didn't think
No.
Yoko was bad. Um, he got up at one point in the match, which I love because it it happened in Sean's match too. They called the super kick the martial arts kick.
Yes.
Um, and so
Yes.
we got to hear it called Sweet Chin music, but um I have it here. He doesn't look awful. He just looked a little slower than he usually does.
Hmm.
But he was still able to get up for the kicks and stuff like that. Brett's timing was a bit off though because Yoko was a little bit slower than he usually
Yeah.
was. Um, but like when Brett punches Yoko, he's actually not a bad seller. Like he sells okay for a guy his size. I mean, he's legitimately 500 some
Yeah.
pounds.
Yep.
So sells for a guy that is that big. Um, In the match, there was USA
Yeah,
chants.
oh, you have that written down too. I have it written down.
Like, what is happening? Why are they chanting USA? You have a Canadian and a Samoan guy playing
Yes.
a guy from Japan, a sumo wrestler.
And Bobby calls it out too. Like
Yeah,
Bobby literally calls it out and says, "The boy, how stupid this crowd is. One guy's from Canada, the other guy's from Japan." Like
yeah.
Bobby's so good. Just he might as well be an honorary member of the WWR podcast because he was
I
shooting
agree.
strays this whole time. This whole show was just Bobby just ragging on people.
And I don't blame him. That was so stupid.
It was. It was silly.
I that made me laugh though. I was watching it. I was like, "What are they chanting?" Um, but yeah, it was a good. I would say it was a good match. So they were kind of working to this battle match where they were like, can he even get Yoko in the sharpshooter? Well,
Hmm.
Brett gets him in the corner, finally gets him up for it. Then Fuji digs in the robe, gets some salt out straight to the eyes of Bret Hart. And in the greatest moment of a young Sam Younker's life, 6-year-old Sam Younker jumping up and down. I remember this. Excited because Yoko won the belt. Little does he know that's not gonna work for him, brother.
Oh,
And it sucks because man, it's a kind of a stain on Yoko's career now.
yep.
I mean, it felt pointless to do this. Hogan comes out. He was like, "Man, brother, he cheated my guy Brett. He cheated Brett to the referee." And Fuji gets on the mic and says he'll defend the belt right now. That is not good heel work. It's not good heel work. And that's my biggest note from this. It makes Fuji, one of the greatest managers of all
Yep.
time, look stupid.
Yep.
And you go to the tag team match, it makes Money Incorporated look stupid. Hogan makes other people look stupid at his expense
Yeah, 100%.
during this pay-per-view. Um, why? Why, Brian, is my question.
Because they weren't sure if they could move on without Hulk Hogan. And again, this is why this is such a weird pay-per-view and such a slice of what the industry was like at this time because they were kind of in a state of flux. They weren't sure where to go. And you could have just had Yoko go over. He could have cheated and he could have won, and you could have ended WrestleMania with Yokozuna beating Bret Hart, your new babyface champion, and continue the story from there and just focus on moving forward with this new generation. But as soon as Hogan gets back on the phone and has interest in coming back, Vince just can't stay away from it. He's just so scared to move on from Hogan because they've never done it before that you get an ending like this where Hogan gets to come in and dictate what he wants to do, and you have such a crummy finish to otherwise an honestly decent match. I just had to make a note real quick because I have it on right now, and there was actually a really cool spot where Yokozuna gets his foot caught in the ropes and
Oh
he
yeah.
can't get
Mhm.
out, and Brett takes advantage of that. And I go, it's such a really cool way of pinning down a monster because they do a really good job and Yoko does a good job of just like the moment he takes off his robe, dude is just a monster in
Yeah.
that ring. And this is the first WrestleMania, by the way, that the winner of the Royal Rumble would get a championship match at WrestleMania. So they've been building up Yoko going through this whole year, building up to this WrestleMania that at the Royal Rumble how is anybody going to be able to throw him out of the ring? Like, how many guys is it going to take to try to get Yoko out of the ring for the Royal Rumble? and they can't do it. And so you're just building up this monster, and you could have just stuck with the plan, had him win by cheating, and move on to SummerSlam and continue this story. But they couldn't do it because of Hogan, and it kind of gives a stain on the whole story that Brett and Yoko were telling. Because again, I thought it was a pretty good match. I loved him getting his foot stuck in the rope because it was so Andre the Giant. We talked about it in WrestleMania 6. Andre always loved to do his spot where he would get himself tied up in the ropes and he couldn't do anything because that's a great way of taking down a giant is you tie him up in the ropes. Now you've just equalized the match because he can't use his size to his advantage. So I thought it was a really cool way to do that with Yoko, who's a giant in a different way, to get him where he's off of his feet, get his leg caught in the ropes. I thought that was cool. It was a good spot. It's a pretty good match, and I just have in my notes, frickin' Hogan. Like the whole thing, like even with Mr. Fuji, you said it so well, Will, that it makes Mr. Fuji look foolish. It takes this great manager and this great mystique that he's been doing with Yokozuna and just makes him look so foolish is the
Yeah,
only word that I can think of. He actually calls Hogan a yellow belly, like trying to get him to goad him into taking this match. And Hogan just doing his over the top, um, come on, brother. He cheated. He threw salt in his eye. Come on, Brett's the good guy. I'm the good guy. I'm helping. It's so over the top. Um, it's just a mess. And after Brett gets the salt thrown in his eyes, I have a note that look at Brett's cell. And it's not as good as Marty Jannetty in WrestleMania 6 when Mr. Fuji does the same thing and uses the salt in the eye trick. But Brett does a
yeah.
great job of selling after the fact with Hogan running down. I hate that Brett has to do the thing where he has to give Hogan his blessing to let him know, yeah, go in there and do it. You
I
know,
was just
take the
about to
match
say
and
that.
beat him. Like it just the whole
Uh,
thing just comes off so weird. And for anybody who hasn't watched this WrestleMania before, I would love to hear from anybody who hasn't watched this before and now you did and you're watching us. Leave a comment for us and let us know like what your reaction was to that because I have to imagine if you didn't know that this was going to happen and you didn't know about it and you're watching it for the first time, you had to be dumbstruck by what was going on. Like it really just you have to be losing your mind if you didn't know about this already because it's so ridiculous.
yeah, I mean it's just bad heel work.
Yeah.
If you like a good baby face that wants to push the company forward and doesn't have their own best interest in mind, would take that challenge from Yokozuna and get pinned. Because
Yeah.
that's how you build a dominant heel. Would it be stupid still?
Yes.
Yeah, kind of. But at least it makes your heel look dominant.
Yeah.
And that's what you want, especially when you're building to the future. But it's Hulk Hogan, and that's not going to happen. And he needs to walk out with a belt at WrestleMania. And they probably offered him the tag belts, and he
Oh,
didn't want it because it's
yep.
not enough for him, brother. And
It's so funny you say that, Will, because I was thinking during that match with Money Inc. when we were talking about it, how Hogan can't even put those guys over. It has to be a crummy finish. That I can't imagine a world where they were supposed to win the tag championships, what Hogan would have done if they would have won that match and become the tag team champions. Like they would have had to make Money Inc. look ridiculous too. I mean, they already came out not looking great because that match was a mess also. But could
mhm,
you imagine if they would have had Hogan and Beaver win the belts? Like it would have been more nonsense. And I'm glad that they didn't do that because you know what? I take that back. It doesn't really matter. This is I'm watching it right now. I'm watching Hogan hug the belt and holding it up and doing his Hogan must pose stuff that he does at the end of every WrestleMania. And the weird part is that kid me watching this when it happened, I loved it because I was a kid and I was like, "Oh good, Hogan's champion again." That's the way that it should be. But I've talked about this before. I was a kid. Kids also like Sunny D and only order pizza with pepperoni on it. Sometimes you have to grow out of the yummy phase, and Vince wasn't ready to do that yet. So Hogan had to become the champion. And it's a shame that we have to move forward from this and eventually get into the new generation and let Brett and Shawn and all those guys kind of take the mantle and run with it to get where we are today. But boy, was this a speed bump for a show that really wasn't that great. I still think it's entertaining. I still think it's fun to go back and watch it because it's so unique that it's the first outdoor venue. It's the first
Mhm.
time in Vegas. Um, and if you're somebody who really loves Vegas, it's really cool to see 1993 Caesar's Palace in Vegas and a big event like that. Those are the good takeaways.
Yeah. Um, the venue, the views, the vibe of WrestleMania 9, the first two matches, those are my very positive takeaways from this
Yeah.
pay-per-view. I wouldn't give it a thumbs down even. It gets a middle thumb. It
I
really
agree
does.
with you. It's a middle thumb. I'll watch it again. I promise you I will watch it again.
Yeah, it's not a bad pay-per-view by any means. Um, is it WrestleMania 6? No.
Mm-mm.
No, it's not. Um, but that being said, looking to the future, I just hope that this year's WrestleMania in Vegas is going to blow this out of the water unless John Cena wins and then Randy Orton comes out and he hugs Cody Rhodes and he's like, "Can I go get him? Can I go get him?" And then Randy becomes champion or something ridiculous like that. But luckily
That'd be
that
kind
guy
of awesome now, especially after rewatching this. It would be actually kind of funny if they did some sort of weird Easter egg with that. You know what they should do, Will? Is they should do it during one of the mid-card championships. Just
Oh,
have that happen.
yeah, what if LA Knight beats Jacob Fatu and then Solo Sikoa has to go get him or something ridiculous
Yeah,
like
it would be a funny little Easter egg for them to do. They'll never do that, but
no, and they shouldn't.
no, they absolutely should not do that. I mean, if they just want to make us happy, go ahead by all means, but I wouldn't recommend it.
No. Uh, yeah, but looking forward, I think the card itself is just so much better. Of course,
Yeah.
it's a two-night WrestleMania now, and there's a whole lot to look forward to. Speaking of stuff to look forward to, we're gonna be on very soon. I don't know what Brian's schedule is, because as we've mentioned in almost every podcast, because we're super excited for WrestleMania.
Yes.
Brian's gonna have WWR feet down in Vegas for WrestleMania.
That's right.
He's going to Stand and Deliver. He's going to the WrestleMania roast. There's a whole lot to look forward to. So that being said, our predictions video probably should have already been out, but it's coming out. We wanted to make sure that all the matches were finalized.
Yeah,
That
we were waiting for them to get the card out.
yeah, we do not want to miss anything and have any big shockers, roll up on us. Um, so stay tuned for that.
Yep.
That's coming out very soon. Um, and outside of that, after that, we'll have our WrestleMania 41 review when Brian gets back.
Yep.
Um, I will be posting some individual content over on the TikTok of just me, and who knows, maybe Lil Yoko will get on there with us.
Oh,
Maybe we'll,
that'd be perfect.
maybe we'll do some Hank's hot takes.
Oh, this would be
Going in
great.
going into WrestleMania on some matches. I'll definitely get a little bit of that out on TikTok. And then after that, after our 41 review, um, just kind of looking forward to the future. Who knows? Um, I know we want to get in a few more Who Fits the Faction. We'll definitely keep
Yeah,
doing rated and underrated. But this kind of completes me and Brian's first round year in the wrestling world doing this podcast
it
thing.
does.
We appreciate you guys joining us on the journey. We've had so much fun doing this. We
Yeah, it's a
really
blast.
Um, so stay tuned. We're also gonna try to start getting some wrestlers on the podcast, maybe. Um, we're in the works with some stuff. No
Yep.
spoilers on that. So whole lot to look forward to for WWR going into the next wrestling calendar year.
Absolutely. It's going to be a lot of fun. Any content I can get while I'm out there in Vegas, I'm going to be sending it over to Will. He'll get that stuff up. Uh, Hopefully, there will be some fun stuff to report back. At the very least, it's going to be awesome to be able to come back and, based off of depending on what we do and what we see and what goes on, we may just have to do Brian's WrestleMania trip report episode along with our WrestleMania 41 review, because there could be some good stuff that I come back with. The roast is going to be really exciting. That should be pretty
That is
fun.
awesome.
Mania for Saturday night is still not off the table. We'll be checking tickets for that. Stand and Deliver is shaping up to be a lot of fun.
Yeah,
We
it
got
is.
Julia back, so this is going to be a good time. I'm really excited.
Yeah, and I think that wraps it up for us. Quick shout out to our Realm family
Boom.
over at Realm Paranormal Podcast. Brian, you got any notes on that? What's happening?
Yeah, we're just going to be starting the seventh season. We should have a new episode coming out real soon if you go over to the Realm Paranormal Podcast. We're going to be talking about the big investigation that the gang had in Ireland at Haunted Ross Castle. Um, this is going to be a pretty heavy investigation season where we'll be going over a lot of stuff, culminating at the end with a big evidence reveal for everything that was found at Ross Castle. So it should be a lot of fun. Looking forward to that. Just a lot going on in the Realm family of podcasts here in
Yes.
2025. It's going to be a good year.
And maybe even some realm crossover stuff
Could
coming
be. Who
soon.
knows?
Who knows?
Oh,
Who
maybe.
knows? That'd be a lot of fun. So just stay tuned. Lots of content coming out. We appreciate you guys.
Yep.
I'm Brian. Oh, I'm not Brian. Shoot, that's Brian.
I'm
Uh,
not Brian either. I'm
oh,
Bryce Maximus.
that's Bryce Maximus. I thought I had to be Brian to fill in the place of Bryce Maximus over
No,
there.
you're Will the Hitman Hart over here.
Yeah, I am. Yeah, I am Will the Hitman Hart. That's Bryce Maximus. Until next time, guys. Much love. See ya.
You guys, peace out. And I realized who Penta is because he's better in a tag team. You know who he is? He's Jim the Anvil Neidhart.
He might be.
Brett did all the work, did all the heavy lifting. Neidhart can come in, do his spots, and then tag out. Never could make it as a singles because of that. I think that's Penta.
That's a good. Cutting if we're gonna start working with wrestlers. We'll have
Yeah.
to watch ourselves a little more. Never let Damian Priest on the podcast. He'll think we hate him.
Oh, you know what though? We're like Sour Patch Kids with Damian Priest. Like we say something and then we're quick to be like, we didn't mean that. We love Damian Priest.
Yeah, dude. Damian Priest will be like, yeah, man, Drew McIntyre is really bad. It sucks that he has to wrestle Damian Priest, but we love Damian
We
Priest.
do. That is. That's totally something that we did. Yeah. You got to put the shades back on when we get to the finale.
Oh, oh no, I'll put him back on right
Okay.
now. It's in Mania
Look at
9.
that. Look at that.
I didn't realize I had him off.
Hitman and the Hizzy.
That's right. Glasses on glasses. Like I'm double doing. Two pairs of glasses.